There is a moment in the aftermath of a relationship with a narcissist that almost no one prepares you for. It is not the day they devalued you. It is not the night they discarded you. It is not even the moment you finally understood what they truly were. It is the strange, electric, almost unbearable stillness that arrives when both of you stop reaching out at the same time. No messages, no accidental calls, no social media glances, no mutual friends carrying whispers between you. Just silence, a silence so thick it begins to vibrate. And inside that silence, something extraordinary begins to happen, something most survivors never expect, something the narcissist never wanted you to discover. Because when mutual silence settles in, the entire psychological architecture of the relationship begins to collapse. And the shock that follows is unlike anything that came before it. Before we go deeper into this truth, I want you to do one thing for yourself. One small act of self loyalty. If you have ever felt invisible, manipulated, gaslit, drained, or quietly destroyed by someone who claimed to love you, subscribe to this channel right now. This space exists for you. Every message here is created to help you understand what happened to you, why it happened, and how to walk out of it with your soul intact. Subscribing is not just clicking a button. It is choosing to stand on the side of your own healing. It is telling your nervous system that from this moment forward, you are no longer alone in understanding what you survived. Stay with me, because what I am about to share will change the way you see the silence you are living in right now. Most people imagine that no contact is something one person does to another. The survivor walks away, the narcissist tries to pull them back, and the dynamic continues in a different form. But there is a far rarer, far more psychologically explosive scenario that almost no one talks about. It is the moment when both of you stop reaching out. When the narcissist, for reasons of pride, strategy, distraction, new supply, or wounded ego, also goes quiet. And suddenly, there is no pursuer, no resistor, no chaser, no runner. There is only space. And space is the one thing a narcissistic bond was never designed to survive. To understand why this silence becomes a psychological earthquake, you have to understand what the relationship actually was beneath the surface. It was never built on intimacy. It was built on circulation, a constant exchange of emotional energy, attention, reaction, validation, conflict, reconciliation, doubt, hope, and fear. Every interaction, even the painful ones, was fuel. Every argument was contact. Every silence was a setup for the next contact. The relationship was a closed system that depended on continuous motion. And when the motion stops on both sides at once, the system has nothing left to feed on, and it begins to die in real time inside both of you. For the narcissist, this is where the unexpected internal collapse begins. People assume narcissists are unaffected by silence because they appear cold, detached, and quick to replace. But what is happening underneath is something very different. A narcissist does not experience relationships the way emotionally healthy people do. They do not carry a stable inner sense of self. Their identity is assembled in real time through the reactions of others. Your attention, your love, your anger, your hurt, your hope, even your resentment, all of it functioned as a mirror that reflected back to them a version of themselves they could tolerate. When you stop reaching out, one mirror goes dark. When they also stop reaching out, the entire hall of mirrors that you both built together goes black at once. And in that darkness, they are forced to sit with a self that has no shape. This is why prolonged mutual silence destabilizes a narcissist in ways that ordinary rejection never could. Ordinary rejection still gives them something to react to. They can feel wounded, pull revenge, craft a smear campaign, or chase you down. But mutual silence offers no target. There is no one to blame in the moment, no one to manipulate, no one to punish. There is only the unbearable presence of their own inner emptiness. the very emptiness the relationship with you was designed to cover. And because they cannot tolerate that emptiness, their mind begins to do strange things. They start replaying old memories with you, but distorted, sometimes idealized, sometimes demonized, depending on what they need to feel in that moment. They begin to wonder, quietly and obsessively, what you are doing, who you are with, whether you are happy, whether you have forgotten them, whether you have replaced them. And the more they try not to think about you, the more your absence grows louder inside them. This is the part almost no survivor realizes. The narcissist does not miss you the way a healthy person misses someone they loved. They miss the function you served. They miss the predictable supply of emotional reaction. They miss the certainty of knowing that somewhere in the world someone was still affected by them. And when both of you stop contacting each other, that certainty disappears. They no longer know if they still occupy space in your mind. And for someone whose entire identity depends on occupying space in other minds, this uncertainty becomes a slow, quiet form of psychological torture. Meanwhile, on your side of the silence, something very different is unfolding, and it is just as intense, just as disorienting, but it is moving you in the opposite direction, toward life, toward truth, toward yourself. In the first days of mutual silence, your body does not feel free. It feels like it is in withdrawal because it is. Your nervous system became chemically and emotionally addicted to the cycles of the relationship. The dopamine of intermittent affection, the cortisol of constant tension, the adrenaline of conflict, the relief of reconciliation. Your brain learned to expect these waves. When the waves stop, your body panics. You may feel restless, sick, hollow, anxious, unable to sleep, unable to eat, or unable to stop crying for reasons you cannot fully name. This is not weakness, this is detox. You are coming off a person the way someone comes off a substance, and the discomfort you feel is proof of how deeply they had wired themselves into you. Then comes the second wave, the grief. And this grief is strange because you are not only grieving them, you are grieving the version of yourself that believed in them. You are grieving the time you gave, the love you poured into a vessel that could not hold it, the dreams you built around someone who was never going to inhabit them with you. You are grieving the person you thought they were, the one who existed only in your hope. And you are grieving the parts of you that went silent during the relationship, the parts that learned to shrink, to apologize, to disappear, to anticipate, to perform. Mutual silence brings all of this to the surface because there is finally no distraction left, no fight to win, no message to decode, no crumb of attention to chase, just you and everything you buried while you were busy surviving them. And somewhere in the middle of this storm, a quiet shift begins. You start noticing things you had not noticed in months or years. The taste of your morning coffee, the sound of your own thoughts without their voice layered over them, the way your shoulders feel when you are not bracing for criticism, the way your breath moves when no one is monitoring it. These small returns are not small at all. They are the first signs that your identity is reassembling itself outside their gravity. You are coming home to a self you almost forgot existed. If this is touching something deep in you, if you are recognizing your own story in these words, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel and stay close to this community. Healing from narcissistic abuse is not something you should walk through alone, surrounded only by people who never understood what was really happening behind closed doors. Understanding the psychology of what you survived is not optional. It is the foundation of your freedom. Every time you learn the truth about these dynamics, you take back another piece of yourself that confusion stole. Subscribe, stay, and let this knowledge become the ground beneath your feet. You deserve to be informed, validated, and accompanied as you rebuild. Now let us go even deeper, because there is a layer of this experience that few people ever explain. As the silence between you and the narcissist continues, an invisible psychological battle begins to take shape. And the strange truth is that you are winning it without doing anything at all. The narcissist expected contact to resume. They always do. Their entire model of relationships is built on the assumption that the bond they created with you is unbreakable. Not because of love, but because of the trauma bonds, the shared history, the emotional debts, the unfinished arguments, the unhealed wounds. They assumed that eventually loneliness would drive you back, or curiosity, or guilt, or longing, or the simple human need for closure. And when none of that happens, when the silence holds, something inside them begins to crack in a way they cannot admit even to themselves. Narcissists struggle profoundly with uncertainty. Their inner world is rigid because rigidity protects them from the chaos of their own unresolved shame. They need to know where they stand in every dynamic. They need to know they are still important, still feared, still wanted, still hated, still remembered. Anything but forgotten. When you go silent and stay silent, and they also remain silent, they lose the ability to measure their own significance. They cannot tell if you are healing, if you are suffering, if you have moved on, if you are pretending, if you have replaced them, or if you are quietly waiting. And because they cannot tolerate not knowing, their mind begins to fabricate scenarios. Sometimes grandiose, sometimes paranoid, sometimes desperate. This is the internal noise that mutual silence creates inside them, and it grows louder the longer the silence lasts. This is also why so many narcissists eventually break the silence first, often in subtle ways. A view on a story, a like on an old post, a message to a mutual contact, a vague public statement clearly aimed at you, a sudden reappearance dressed up as concern, nostalgia, apology, or crisis. These are not signs of love. They are signs that the uncertainty became unbearable. They needed to provoke a reaction, any reaction, to confirm that they still exist inside you. And here is the truth that will change everything for you. If you do not react, if you do not respond, if you do not even register their attempt with visible emotion, you are demonstrating something they have never been able to handle: genuine indifference. Not performed indifference, not strategic silence, true internal settled indifference that comes from a self that has reorganized itself around its own life rather than around their absence. Genuine indifference is the one thing a narcissist cannot manipulate, cannot weaponize, cannot refrain, cannot punish you for. They can survive your hate. They can survive your love. They can survive your rage and your tears. What they cannot survive is becoming irrelevant in the mind of someone they once controlled, because their power was never real. It was always borrowed from your attention. And when you stop lending it, they become exactly what they always feared they were underneath the mask: ordinary, unremarkable, forgettable. And while they are confronting that collapse on their side of the silence, you are undergoing a transformation on yours that no one can take from you. You are learning that your nervous system can settle, that your thoughts can belong to you again, that love does not have to feel like surveillance, anxiety, walking on eggshells, or constant emotional accounting. You are learning that peace is not boring, it is sacred, and that you had simply been conditioned to mistake chaos for connection. You are learning that the version of you that existed before them is not lost. She is not gone. He is not gone. They were waiting quietly, patiently, beneath the layers of trauma for the moment when the noise would finally stop so they could speak again. And as the weeks of silence become months, you begin to notice something almost miraculous. You think of them less. Not because you are forcing yourself to, not because you are distracting yourself, but because your mind, finally given the space to heal, naturally turns toward your own life, toward your goals, toward your body, toward the people who never made you question your reality, toward the future you almost gave up on. The narcissist becomes smaller in your mind, not because you hate them, but because you have outgrown the size of the wound. You are no longer the person they could hurt in the way they used to, and that change is permanent. Once you have seen the pattern clearly, once you have felt your own strength return in silence, you cannot unsee it and you cannot unfeel it. This is the moment many survivors describe as the second awakening. The first awakening was when you realized what they were. The second awakening is when you realize what you are without them. And what you are is something they were never able to see, never able to honor, and never able to imitate. You are a whole human being with a soul that was always more luminous than they could tolerate. That is why they tried to dim you. That is why they tried to confuse you. That is why they tried to make you doubt the very instincts that were trying to save you. They did not destroy you because you were weak. They tried to destroy you because you were strong, and your strength threatened the carefully constructed illusion they needed to believe about themselves. So, when both of you finally stop contacting each other and the shock of silence settles into the truth of silence, remember this: you are not losing them. You are finding yourself. You are not being abandoned. You are being returned. You are not alone in the quiet. You are finally alone with someone worth being alone with, which is you. The same you they tried to convince you was too much, too sensitive, too emotional, too needy, too independent, too quiet, too loud, too anything that did not serve them. That you is coming back now, wiser, slower to trust, faster to recognize danger, deeper in self respect, and more loyal to your own peace than you have ever been in your life. The silence between you and the narcissist is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the only chapter where you are truly the author. Every day you do not reach out, you are writing it. Every day you do not break, you are writing it. Every day you choose your healing over the illusion of closure, you are writing it. And one day, sooner than you think, you will look back at this exact period of your life, this strange and shocking silence, and you will recognize it as the moment everything changed. Not because they finally understood you, they never will, but because you finally understood yourself. If these words reach the part of you that has been waiting to hear them, please subscribe to this channel and become part of this community. Stay close to the voices that remind you of your worth when the silence tries to convince you otherwise. Share these reflections with anyone you love who is walking through the same fire. Healing is not a solitary act. It is a quiet revolution carried out by people who refuse to disappear inside someone else. You are one of them now. You always were. And from this moment forward, every silence in your life will no longer be a place of fear. It will be a place where you remember exactly who you are, exactly what you survived, and exactly how unshakable you have become. Welcome back to yourself. You were always worth the journey home.